So you're here. Yes, yes, I know. I have a story to tell you today. I feel like I had to be outside to tell this story. It's been a week. It literally has been a week. There's a lot of downs, but I'm here and I'm gonna tell you about my story with the chicken in a bucket. Now, I want to be forthcoming and say that if you can't stand, I guess, violence against animals, I would put it, sort of. It wasn't, it kind of is, but it wasn't, because it was a way of life. But if you're very sensitive to those things, I'd advise you not to watch or listen, because the story is about my childhood and what I basically did. So this I actually remember this story because my friends, I was hanging out with them, and it came out of nowhere, where we're like, hey, remember that story where you had to sit on a bucket when you were a child? And I'm like, yeah, not a lot of people know that. And it brings me to my point where you don't really know people and you don't know what other people go through in their life. This is why you should never judge anyone, because you can't come from their you will never come from their perspective, because you don't go through the same things that they go through to live their life. So don't envy anyone and don't judge anyone, because you don't know. And certain things people go through, it you can't even imagine, and some people are going through it and making it look easy. So on to the story. When I was younger, I lived in Jamaica, and it was very, how I call this? It was kind of a very country type of living, even though I lived in the city, which is so weird. But where I lived was, sorry for all the background noise. It is New York, and there's always sirens everywhere. So if it becomes too much, I'm sorry. But I lived in Jamaica, and my grandmother would plant food and everything, and she would get chicken from this local man who actually used to raise the chickens and sell it. So she buys the live chicken instead of going to the supermarket and actually buying the ones in the supermarket. It was normally cheaper to do it the way she did, plus it was fresher. Now when it came time to actually cook the chicken, because the chicken was still alive, she kind of had to end it. And in order to do that the least messy way as possible, my job, well, what she did was she put the chicken underneath a bucket and leave the head out. And my job was to sit on the bucket while she kind of cut the head off. And my job as a little 6-7-year-old, maybe younger, maybe older, I don't remember, was to sit there and wait until the chicken stopped moving. And when the chicken stopped moving, then she would already have a big pot of boiling water, and what she would do when the chicken stopped moving is take out the chicken by the legs, by the little feet and everything, and dip it into the hot water, and then pluck the feathers off. Now she wouldn't allow my cousin and I, because we were younger, she wouldn't allow us to do that, because one, she never really allowed us in the kitchen, because we grew up with her and she was like, I'm responsible for you guys. And it's crazy because every grandmother that I know always try to push the kids in to cook, but my grandmother was like, you are not going into the kitchen so you can burn yourselves or anything. So I never really learned to cook from my grandmother. I kind of learned how to do it on my own and asking a ton of questions. But The dipping in the hot water part and plucking it, she kept us very far from that because, again, big pot of water, hot boiling water, could easily turn over, and it it could cause a lot of damage. So pick the chicken, cut the chicken, clean the chicken, everything, and get the chicken ready, season the chicken, and cook the chicken. So later on, we ate. That's what we ate for dinner. So it's crazy to me that when I came to America and I was in class in college, and the professor was like, "Hey, who's ever had meat that is like freshly killed?" And I was the only person that was kind of like, me and the professor. And it was so weird because everybody else was like, "Oh my God, what? Why would I do that?" And I was just like, that was the way of life. That's how we ate. That's literally how we ate. I mean, my grandmother did cook a lot of vegetarian food and everything, but at the same time, when she did cook chicken and all, that's the process that we went through to get that food. And it was crazy to me that some Americans just think that food are just there in the supermarket for them to just get. They don't know that there's a whole process that goes from like the tree or the ground in order for it, and then it's shipped to the supermarket. They just think that, oh, it's at the supermarket and that's where I get my food. So it was an eye-opener from that experience to hearing somebody think that pineapples in the can was actually pineapples. And it's just like, oh my God, what? I'm a pineapple lover. And they thought of the sliced pineapples in the can, those things taste disgusting. And to think that someone actually thinks that's the way pineapples are supposed to taste is sad. It makes me sad. And thank goodness I was able to educate that person and be like, no, that's not even close what a pineapple tastes like. And they now love pineapples because of that. You're welcome. But it brings me back to the point where, like, you can't judge people. And a lot of people would think that because of how I carry myself, and I'm not very prissy, but I do carry myself with a certain vigor, I guess, but whatever. I don't carry myself like some trash. I don't. And because of that, a lot of people think that I can't really do certain things, or that I have experience with a lot of things. And I used to wash my own clothes with my own hands with a bath pan outside, then hang those clothes on the line. I used to have to sit on the bucket with the chicken inside of it. Like, you would never think that just from seeing me. So it's like these things that I grew up with and that I learned. And if all hell breaks loose and we had to go back to doing things without... Stop it. My alarm. If all hell breaks loose and we had to go back to doing things without electricity, I could survive, because part of my life existed without electricity. And I used to have to come home and do my homework before the sun went down so I can actually finish my homework before I had to use a lantern, one of them kerosene lamps, to finish my homework. And you would never believe that, because you couldn't tell. You could not tell, but that was my life. And if anything happened and the world went back into pre-electricity or anything, I can survive. I know how to do things. And that's the thing. Don't judge people, because you might see somebody dressed well, or you might see somebody dressed down, and you're thinking, oh, that person could have smashed a fly, when that person is like black belt or something. You don't know. So don't make it a habit to judge people, because more times than none, you're wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong. And that's my chicken in a bucket story. I hope it wasn't too gory for you, but that was my life. That literally was my life. Well, I think gotta go now since music started playing and everything in the background, but that's New York for you. But see you next week. Bye.